Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magdalene Centre. Today I'm doing the weekly astrology report for the 18th of April, highlighting some of the key passages and transits this week of the planets and what kinds of themes they reveal to us in terms of helping us understand what the energies are doing. Now, before I go into the actual aspects themselves, I just want to clarify, as I always do, that the astrology doesn't control us in any way, shape or form. It's just like a roadmap to help us understand what the energies are doing around us and the kinds of influences they contain, so that by being conscious of this, we can then come from a place of centered responsiveness rather than blind reactivity. If we know what kinds of themes are unfolding, we can then choose to engage with them in a different way. Now, I'll start off as I always do with the moon transit. So initially the moon is in Taurus, and this is a time where we may feel that need to focus on getting grounded, to slow down, and maybe even spend time in natural environments which are naturally grounding, just to help us feel more rooted rather than rushing around constantly. And then on the same day, the moon will move on into Gemini. And this will bring a couple of days where we may feel that need to engage in research, to communicate with one another, to maybe be a bit more social, and to just reach out and engage in networking potentially, and especially if we're looking to pursue a certain goal that we've set for ourselves. Moon in Gemini is a good time for that kind of connecting and networking, so we can figure out what kind of information do we need and what other things do we need to have for our goals. Then on Friday the moon moves into her home sign of Cancer. This is a time of slowing down, turning inwards for a bit, just connecting with the core of who we are and reconnecting with our emotions and giving them space to flow, so that we're not trying to pen them in, which causes stress and causes the moon to operate dysfunctionally. And so it's a time of kind of self-nurturing. Then on Sunday the moon moves into Leo, and this is a time of looking to be our authentic selves, to be that towards others, to engage in creativity, maybe be a bit more playful, and to encourage other people to do the same. So we encourage each person to shine and be their creative, playful self, and to come up with all kinds of creative ideas. And then on Tuesday the moon moves into Virgo, and this will be a time of developing a greater degree of order in our environment, so maybe involved in tidying up. Virgo also deals with our house, so we may feel that need to make sure that we're eating fairly healthily, that we're maintaining our physical and mental health, which then makes us better able to pursue goals, because we're keeping ourselves strong, keeping ourselves healthy, we're keeping our minds comparatively free of stress through making sure that we don't allow that inner critic to go overboard. Now, in terms of other aspects this week, the first one is going to be the Sun conjunct Uranus in Aries on Wednesday itself, so the 18th. And this is the last time that the Sun and Uranus will conjunct in Aries together for about 77 years, because Uranus is coming up to the end of his transit through Aries and moving on into Taurus in May. Uranus will backtrack into Aries when it goes retrograde. However, the Sun and Uranus will not reconnect in the sign of Aries again for 77 years. So only the people who are very young may potentially see that aspect again in a lifetime. So with Uranus conjunct the Sun in Aries, this is like the final aspect of encouraging us to embrace change and to connect with the need for or understanding why we need to make changes in our lives. Uranus is about awakening, but usually it's generally seen as a planet of chaos and confusion and the unexpected, because for whatever reason we have a tendency to resist change. So as a result, Uranus becomes a planet of surprises and a planet of chaos if we resist change, because now things are happening to us, because deep down we may know full well that we need to make a change, but because of the fear of the unknown, or being too comfortable where we are at the moment and not being prepared to step out of the comfort zone, we may resist making the changes we need to make in order to be more authentic or more true to who we are. Because Uranus drives the individuation process. It's about having us to separate our consciousness from the collective unconscious so that we understand who we are. And by that I don't just mean self-identity. What I mean is there's this part of us which stays the same regardless of where we are in the world, regardless of which culture we're in, because we all have our own social conditioning, we all have our own cultural conditioning, but there's another part of us which is connected to the higher mind, which is universal and that is not determined by conditioning, is not affected by social conditioning. Uranus is about trying to awaken us to that side of us, that part that is unique and does not change in response to different environments. It remains the same. This is like the true self, if you like. It's not bound by conditioning in any way. So Uranus has also been, for the past 7 years, helping to awaken that pioneering spirit, the need to take action in order to make things happen. Because Uranus deals with, is the natural rule of Aquarius, and deals with things like humanitarianism, so there's idealism, and looking to achieve personal freedom, and the ideally elevating our communities. However, this can only happen if we're prepared to work on ourselves. So if we're not prepared to make any changes within ourselves, then how can we expect society as a whole to change? Society only changes as people change. So if we want a society that's more equal, that's more humanitarian and is more about nurturing everybody and not just a few people at the expense of the many, then we have to become those agents of change. We have to awaken ourselves, we have to transform ourselves and change our own personal sense of self-identity if we want these changes to happen. Otherwise, what right do we have to demand other people do it if we're not even prepared to do it ourselves? Now, the next aspect is also going to be the Sun is moving into Taurus on Friday, and this is a time where we may feel it marks a new theme, if you like, for us to be working on. Sun in Aries deals with the willingness to initiate new beginnings. It's about cultivating that courage necessary to take action in the face of fear, and it's also about asserting ourselves and developing healthy assertiveness where we make it clear where our boundaries lie. We don't tolerate people trying to stomp all over us, but likewise we don't try to push other people about, we don't become impulsive and insensitive. We remember that other people have their own goals, they have their own rights, their own unique selves as well. So it's that assertiveness to maintain our own boundaries, but we need to remember to respect other people's as well. Now with the Sun moving into Taurus, this is a time where you may feel that need to slow down and to get more grounded. Taurus is like that phase, because Aries is like that initial enthusiasm and motivation to start a new goal. But inevitably we always hit that point where the motivation starts to die down a bit. We may not have the same desire to keep going at it. If the goal is worthwhile, we know that we need to commit to it. So this is where Taurus comes in, brings in that patience and that slow, steady action to keep things going. Because Aries is like when we plant the seeds and they bring the first leaves up. Once the seeds have germinated and started growing, we're then responsible for maintaining their growth by making sure they get sufficient water, make sure that protected from pests, and make sure that getting plenty of nutrients in the soil as well. So this is the Taurus side. It's that taking those steady actions necessary to keep a goal going. But Taurus is also about grounding. It's about coming into the body, as it were, and more fully grounding our sense of identity. And Taurus brings us an opportunity to develop the gifts of things like self-worth and self-esteem, because these are the qualities or the attributes that help us to maintain our self-confidence, to stay true to who we are, and to make sure that what we're doing is right for who we are. So we need to have that, develop those gifts of self-esteem and self-worth by honouring who we are and going within ourselves to identify what resources we have, because Taurus is about resources. Now we generally unfortunately, Taurus genuinely really gets seen in terms of money because, yes, it deals with finances, but resources come in all kinds, and our key resource is actually ourselves. Is what attributes and what skills do we have, or what resources do we have inside us that allow us to keep pursuing a goal. And it's also about getting connected through like the physical senses, because with Aries, it's pushing forward relentlessly. It's that fiery passion to keep going, but we can also cause ourselves a lot of stress, and we can also forget to be in the present moment. Taurus reminds us to slow down, to be connected with our core self, to remember to enjoy things. So it's not just work, work, work. It's remember to enjoy the fruits of our labours. So Taurus also deals with things like physical affection, so the connecting with one another. And one way that we often feel more grounded is when we embrace one another, when we engage in physical affection like hugging. It just has that natural calming effect of getting us grounded. But Taurus is also the strongest connection with the earth, with it being fixed. So it's also a time where we may feel that need to spend a bit more time in more natural environments, or spend a bit more time in solitude and silence, and just giving the mind an opportunity to quiet, to unwind a bit and not be so frenetically engaged in activity. And through this we develop a much more grounded sense of self. We're less stressed out by what's going on around us. But it's also one thing we need to be mindful of is Taurus is kind of well known for the materialistic side, but materialism stems from when we seek security outside of ourselves. So we believe that if we keep accumulating material possessions, we'll develop greater security. True security, however, is an internal state of mind. If we achieve inner security by having that self-esteem, self-worth, and being completely comfortable within our own skins, without worrying about how other people perceive us, and it's being able to stay true to our own values, because Taurus is about our value system. We all have our own innate values, but often these values get suppressed in favour of what society promotes. So the Sun's passage through Taurus may well be a time where we may need to reflect on what do we really value. Do we actually believe in the values that we're told we should pursue based on societal conditioning? Or do we have our own personal values, our own spiritual values that mean more to us? Because if we don't stay true to our own personal value system, then we're more likely to be drawn into the materialistic side of Taurus. But Taurus is about that desire for security, but if we can create it within us by having faith that all the things we need will be provided. Because if you look at the glyph of Taurus, I will do more on this in a separate video, but the glyph of Taurus, which is generally seen as the bull, but it's a circle with a half-open circle at the top. The complete circle is like earthly consciousness, whilst the half-open circle is pointing upwards to the heavens. And this is a reminder that what we should be striving for is to be in the world and not of it. It's perfectly fine to enjoy our environments, it's perfectly fine to enjoy and engage in pleasure here on earth, but that's not the end goal. We need to remember that to avoid feeling like we own things or that things are our possessions, and let go of that possessive tendency, and instead learn to be a bit more detached in things. So we enjoy the fruits of our labours, but we don't claim ownership over them, because they're there to be shared with one another, and we can't really take them with us when we go anyway. So why bother stressing over accumulating things that we can't take with us when we pass? Now the next main aspect is the next day. That's Pluto is turning retrograde in Capricorn on the 21st. Now this is a time Pluto helps us to understand our shadow side. Pluto polarises anything he touches, and with this it's about whatever Pluto's touching, he polarises it into positive and negative camp, because all astrological signs have a higher side and a lower side, and Pluto is that force that polarizes you to ends of any given sign, and challenges us to let go of the negative side, the fear-based, the ego side, and embrace its higher nature. So with Pluto and Capricorn, the shadow side that may have is that need for power and control over other people, out of a sense of insecurity that if we don't do that, other people try and control us. So we need to make sure that we work on ourselves in this respect, to make sure that we don't allow fear and insecurity to lead to us being ruthless and cold with other people and trying to pursue goals that aren't right for us. So during the Pluto retrograde, this is also time for where we're almost pushed back on our own personal resources and asked to dig deep and burrow deep into our own psyches in order to bring up deeper levels of resources for us to work on and deeper levels of resolve. Because Pluto reminds us that true power comes from within us. It's not something that we can gain by controlling other people. We may get it temporarily, but there comes an inevitable point where people that we're seeking to control start to fight back, and then this creates a vicious cycle of control where both people are fighting to protect themselves, to control the situation, and it just gets worse and worse. So Pluto reminds us of the value of surrender. But for us to do this, we have to first go within ourselves and look within the shadow of our own being to see where we're still operating from that place, where is our shadow still in control, and where does it need to be transformed. And this is done through self-acceptance. We can't change the shadow if we don't acknowledge it first. We can't transform it if we don't accept it. So it's through shining the light of consciousness with unconditional love and unconditional acceptance on those parts of ourselves that we can transform this side of us and learn to recognize the true power within us and operate from that place. So we empower ourselves, and this then means that we don't feel the need to control other people, we don't feel the need to dominate others, because we already know that we're powerful, so why would we try and control other people? And it's also, if we understand that, we also recognise the need where we may have been pursuing goals or may have been trying to build a legacy that isn't actually right for us, because Capricorn is all about those long-term goals and the desire to leave a legacy behind. But Pluto's, since 2008, has been reminding us that whatever we do must be true to who we are. It cannot be some fake pipe dream or something that we've borrowed off someone else and we're pursuing at the expense of our own integrity. Pluto reminds us that we must honour the truth of who we are. We must make sure that whatever we're doing, we're not trying to seek power over the other people. We're trying to break through all the old conditioning and to connect with that true power source within us at the core of who we are, that deep primal fire that comes from the source. There's it within every single one of us, but it's hidden behind the layers of illusion that we've built up, the layers of conditioning. And it's only through doing the work of Pluto, breaking down these barriers, that we connect to that power within us. Now, the last aspect that I want to discuss is Venus is changing signs and it's moving to Gemini on Tuesday, which is 24th. So this is a time where, so far I've had Venus in Taurus. It's been a time of having this, looking to connect with our values, to deal with or identify what our values are, and maybe desire for stability in relationships and develop that deep rootedness within them, and to kind of savour the simple things in life. But with Venus moving into Gemini, this is a time where we may be more likely to value social interaction, we may value more like connecting with one another, of networking, because Gemini is like the networker. And with Venus in Gemini, this may be a time when we're more interested in variety, of having that kind of personal freedom and trying out different things. Like the whole variety is the spice of life. So we may be more desiring of having more social engagement with one another, of trying out new things, and just desiring more freedom in relationships. So this is a time where connecting with one another is more likely to be on a mental level rather than emotional, and it's more that desire for that mental affinity with one another. So, and it's also with Gemini desiring that kind of freedom and that willingness to try different things. We may desire greater personal freedom in our relationships, but also we need to make sure that the other person is given that as well. So we can't just expect personal freedom for us at the expense of the partner or the friend, whatever kind of partnership we're talking about here. If we're valuing freedom or want more variety, it's a good chance the other person may want that as well. So with Venus's passage through Gemini, it's part of it is learning to become connected to the here and now. It's like that, taking the different strands of life and weaving them into a tapestry that skirts over the surface of things. Because Venus is also about our perception of beauty and love and connection. And with Venus in Gemini, part of it may be seeking to become more embedded in the here and now, and recognising the beauty of how everything is interconnected, of how the different threads of life weave together in different patterns, and each person brings a different coloured thread that adds more colour, more variety, more texture to the tapestry of life. And it also recognises that we're all interconnected in some way, we're all part of this web of life, and the more we understand it, the more we try new things, try different experiences and connect with different kinds of people, the more we appreciate this web of life that binds us all together in constant connection. So I hope it's a useful guide for the weekly report. I'll put, as we've mentioned before, I'll put the links to our website down below, because as I've said, astrology doesn't control us in any way, shape or form. It just gives us a context and gives us an awareness of what's going on collectively. But for things to change for us personally, we have to make personal changes. We have to know ourselves sufficiently by exploring the contents of our minds and doing the spiritual work necessary to heighten our personal awareness and to recognise where we need to make changes in our lives so that we're being more authentic, more true to who we are. May the coming week bring you many new insights, may bring you much opportunity for growth, and may bring you greater fulfilment in life. So take care and be blessed.